This is the Mets Postcast, your instant game reaction for the New York Mets. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Kodai Senga struggled. The Mets offense tried to put together a comeback, but it came up just one run short as the Mets are still looking for their first win this season. After trailing through 8 innings, they fall in the second game of this series to Washington by a final of 5-4. Welcome into the Mets Postcast here live on the Locked On Mets YouTube channel. You can always listen to us back in the Locked On Mets podcast feed. I am your Postcast host, Chris Schubert, here with you after the Mets get done. And a tough one for the Mets in this one. And this one had everything. It had pitching struggles. It had a offensive outburst there in the 6th inning for the Mets. They looked good, looked like they were going to threaten a comeback, but it ultimately came up a little bit short. We had an ejection. We had an ump show. We had some challenges go the Mets' way, a challenge not go the Mets' way. This game certainly had everything tonight, but unfortunately, the Mets winning streak snapped at 3, and at the center of it, and where we will start tonight, is with the guy who started the game, and that is Kodai Senga.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Shout out to Anthony DiComo for providing this statistic that Kodai Senga in his first 14 starts this season, a sub-2 ERA, a 1.39 ERA. Over his last 6 starts, an ERA north of 6. I believe it is 6 on the nose. So just a rough go of it here for Kodai Senga. And I thought, interestingly enough, that he pitched well in the first 2 innings. Really had that fastball, had that late life on it, 97 at times in those first couple of innings, picked up some strikeouts, was really doing a nice job of getting his breaking stuff down in the zone to get some ground balls, to get a couple of strikeouts. And it felt like he was finding a rhythm early. Didn't feel like he needed to settle into the game. Felt like he was settled from the word go, and then it got off the rails for Senga. And it got off the rails in the way that it's been going for Kodai Senga lately. When he is struggling, he is missing with stuff up in the zone. And all of the big hits that the Nats had in this game tonight can be attributed to mostly off speed, but he did leave a fastball middle. I believe it was to Bell on the home run. But most of his off-speed stuff, he did it with the curve, he did it with the ghost fork, he did it with the splitter, just middle. And I don't care that it's the Washington Nationals. It doesn't matter. These are professional big league hitters. You can't leave stuff in the middle of the zone the way that Kodai was. And really, that's been the problem for him as of late. There have been some starts where he's over-relied on throwing that ghost fork, and he's missed with that up in the zone. And that's normally, at least for me, the telltale sign of what kind of night we're going to have for Kodai Senga is how his command is on the ghost fork. Is he getting it to have that late bite down, or is he not getting the snap on it and he's leaving it up in the zone? If he's leaving it up in the zone, it's going to be a long day, or I guess you could say a short day. It's going to be a long day for all of us, a short day for Kodai Senga on the mound. If he's got that late life to it, if he's able to bury it to the lower part of the zone, although I don't know if it was going to get called a strike tonight in the lower part of the zone with the way Todd Tishner was calling balls and strikes behind the plate. Just a rough night behind the plate on both sides. Was giving that low strike, then he wasn't giving that low strike, wasn't giving a strike at the top of the zone. It was just a very inconsistent strike zone tonight from Todd Tishner, and it just led to Miguel Cairo getting ejected, and it just led to not knowing what you needed to throw. But it didn't matter for Kodai Senga. He was just missing middle, and the Nationals were taking advantage of it, and they jumped out to a 4-0 lead in this one. And it's back to the drawing board for Kodai Senga. It's back to trying to figure out. And I liked the approach in the first 2 innings. He was mixing in everything, but was kind of relying heavily on that fastball, used the cutter into the lefties. It felt like he had the pieces there in the first 2 innings, and then the command just went sideways and just wasn't able to get it back, wasn't able to refine it back in and give the Mets a quality start. And so, yeah, the broadcast gets to mention once again a Mets starter not going through 6 innings other than David Peterson. But just not the best night for Kodai Senga, and he'll need to be better his next time out. The offense, though, they attempted to rally in this game. It was the 6th inning where the Mets really did their damage. And I'll tell you what, it is that 6th inning. And I know it's a loss, and I know we would love to have seen them complete the comeback. They certainly had their chance there with the bases loaded to tie the game, if not take the lead in that 6th inning. But watching them make that comeback and watching who was at the center of it and watching how they were able to put it together, that's what the Mets offense is supposed to look like. Lindor starts it off with a walk, albeit on a pitch that probably was a strike. Soto draws a walk. Marte strikes out swinging on strikes out looking on an at bat where he didn't take the bat off his shoulders. But then it is back-to-back doubles by Alonso and McNeil. And I'll just speak from my own personal experience watching the game tonight. I think this says everything about where I'm at with this Mets offense. You get Vientos up, and you're feeling good about the Mets' chances. Brett Baty comes up. You're feeling good about the Mets' chances. Your confidence in those two guys is higher than it's been at really any point this season. Baty hit another towering moonshot in this game, has an OPS north of 800 in the month of August. He has just been the absolute best version of himself. And when you get to the bottom part of the order, tonight it wasn't a case of, oh no, this rally is going to get stopped because it's the bottom part of the order. There was a confidence of, these are the guys I want up right now. I want Vientos up in this spot. I want Baty up in this spot. Unfortunately, the Mets were unable to get it done. And that was it. That was really the best chance the Mets had in this game. They went down 1-2-3 in the 7th and the 8th. Mullins got on in the 9th on an infield hit, but Torrens grounded into a double play. And I know some people were wondering about pitch hitting for Luis Torrens. I mean, he is a guy that hits a ton of hard contact. I mean, he certainly was doing that last night. Who's the bat that you're taking off the bench in the game? Is it Ronnie Mauricio? Can you really say that Ronnie Mauricio has put together the types of at-bats that you want him up in that spot? And that's not to say that Mauricio couldn't have had a better at-bat, but with Marte being used for Nimmo, and we'll get to Nimmo here in just a little bit, I just don't know what options Carlos really had, because I don't want Hayden Senger up in that spot. He's the backup catcher. His bat doesn't really play. Torrens does hit the ball hard. That is the claim to fame, and he certainly did it last night. So I'm not really going to get that twisted about leaving Torrens in that spot. He's probably the best option the Mets had, again, with Marte already in the game, Tyrone Taylor in the game. I mean, again, the Mets just don't have a quality option right now with the way that the game script played out, with Marte already in the game for an injured Brandon Nimmo. So I'm not too hung up on that. The Mets had their chance in the 6th inning in this game. They had the bases loaded, and the offense, they did make the comeback with the back-to-back doubles to set up that chance, but they couldn't complete it. But this game's on Kodai Senga, burying the Mets early in this contest and just losing his command there in the 3rd and 4th innings, and just not being able to keep this game close enough for the Mets rally there in the 6th when they were able to score 3. We will talk about Brandon Nimmo leaving this game with some neck stiffness, what that could mean moving forward, the other stuff to keep an eye on, and your thoughts, obviously, as well. I know everyone wants to talk about the catcher's interference on Luis Torrens here, so I'll share my thoughts on that and much more here on the other side. Have you ever decided last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family, or maybe it's game day, and you suddenly realize, you know what? I got to be in the stands for tonight's game. Well, that's exactly where Game Time comes in. It is the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer that you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. The official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for an exciting upcoming MLB game. Perhaps you want to get involved watching the Mets here down the stretch. Are you tired of endlessly scrolling to find the best deal? Well, Game Time's zone deals pick the best seat for you in your section. My favorite feature, the seat views right there in the app before you buy. You're going to know exactly where you'll be. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Back here on the Mets postcast, recapping the Mets 3-game winning streak getting snapped tonight by the Washington Nationals, losing by a final score of 5-4. Steven says, isn't Acuna on the bench? Luisangel Acuna only up as the 27th man for the Little League Classic over the weekend. And speaking of Luisangel Acuna, he actually left the game tonight in Syracuse. Collision at first base, trying to beat out a ground ball, and he left the game. So don't have an update on that, but I did see that on social media throughout the course of the game. Let's talk about Luis Torrens and the catcher's interference that happened in this game. I don't think that is the case of Luis Torrens making a mistake. Runner was in motion. He's trying to get the ball quickly to try to get the runner at second base. So I'm going to chalk that up to that's just a play that doesn't always happen. I know he's had a couple of them this year, but again, you're trying to get the runner at second base. You're trying to get that quick pop time and get the ball out. And you get a little too quick and you get your glove in there a little early. I'm not going to get too much on Luis Torrens for that. But Brandon Nimmo did leave this game with neck stiffness. The broadcast was trying to see if he heard anything running out a ground ball double play. Wasn't anything. He played defense the next inning and then was pulled from the game. Neck stiffness. This isn't the first time he's dealt with that this season. It is certainly not the first time he's dealt with that in his career. This is an issue that tends to pop up here every so often for Brandon Nimmo, and I don't know how much it's going to limit him. I would assume they may give him the day, certainly tomorrow, but as somebody who was woken up from a bad night's sleep with a stiff or sore neck, it can take a day or two to recover. It could go away very quickly. Just all depends on the quality of sleep, the physical therapy that you do, just how quickly you can loosen it back up. So I'm not sure we'll see him tomorrow, but we could. In the meantime, I think this is a golden opportunity to move Jeff McNeil over to left field. You can keep Brett Baty's bat in the lineup by moving him over to second base and give Ronnie Mauricio another chance to get some at-bats, perhaps. Or if you want to get Marte's bat in the lineup, Mark Vientos can play third and Marte can DH. So certainly a way to maybe get Mauricio and or Marte some opportunities here over the next couple of days or however long Brandon Nimmo will be out for. Max says, Chris, he is prone to this. I prefer the runner at second compared to runners at first and second, and Torrens getting drilled in the hand when Alvey is already injured. Need to play smart baseball. I hear you. I obviously would rather him not stick his hand in there and risk him getting hurt and the Mets being down to one catcher. I mean, they don't have another catcher on the 40-man, so they would have to do some very quick work to get somebody signed to a deal and add them to the 40-man and get them up to the big league level. So I hear you, but it's a guy trying to make a play. And the Mets are really good at throwing runners out. And I don't want to tell Luis Torrens he's got to back off a little bit. I want him to be aggressive. I want him to try to make those plays. And again, that's not why the Mets lost this game tonight. The Mets lost this game tonight because Kodai Senga dug them a hole early, and they lost this game because the offense couldn't come through with that opportunity with the bases loaded. It's just a combination of those two things led to the loss. The other stuff to keep an eye on here, I mean, Brett Baty firmly has a spot in this lineup. Another towering moonshot, 455 feet on the homer tonight. The bat speed looks there, is lifting the ball. Again, we mentioned it earlier, over an 800 OPS since the beginning of August. I mean, he's leaving no doubt for Carlos Mendoza. We always talk about you want to be the guy whose name gets written in the lineup in Sharpie. Brett Baty's probably there, I think, down the stretch here with the way that he's playing. It's probably one of the easier decisions for Carlos Mendoza to make after he puts Lindor, Soto, Alonso, and Nimmo's names down on the lineup card. It's pretty easy to also put Brett Baty's name down there. Second deck shot there in DC. Gregory Soto, another scoreless outing for him, continues to throw scoreless outings in a Mets uniform. I wonder, obviously, I think Tyler Rogers and Ryan Helsley are going to get the bulk of the high leverage stuff right now, but I wouldn't be against on a night where those two guys aren't available if Carlos Mendoza wants to give Gregory Soto an opportunity there in the 7th or 8th, holding on to a lead instead of like Soto was in tonight, a game where the Mets are trailing and he's just trying to keep the lead right there. I mean, Gregory Soto has been excellent, and the concern with him has been the walks, and he's been really good at that. Fastball's got life, sweeper slider looks really good, and he's just been excellent. And so he's shown very quickly, I think, the ability to get those big outs, and I wonder if Carlos Mendoza, I don't know if he's going to go to him as a top option, but as a backup option on a day when maybe your bullpen's a little taxed, I wouldn't have any qualms about that bullpen door swinging wide open and Gregory Soto being a guy that gets a high leverage outing for this team. Speaking of that, Reed Garrett, good to see him have he did walk somebody, but have an inning where he puts up a 0. It has been somewhat of a grind for Reed Garrett as of late. I know I've mentioned it. I know it's been mentioned, I think, by Ryan as well, that option that Reed Garrett has, and the Mets potentially trying to maybe add a bullpen arm, Huascar Razaban, or open up a spot for Brendan Sproat. And this was when we were talking about Clay Holmes moving to the rotation. I think that's off the table, at least for the moment. But Reed Garrett's struggles were kind of center of mind when talking about how the Mets could make room on the roster. And tonight, a good confidence-building outing, I think, for Reed Garrett here in this one. And then I had it written down here. I mean, Luis Torrens getting banged up. And so I think it was Max who brought it up. Obviously, I don't want to see Luis Torrens getting banged up behind the plate over and over and over again, because the Mets don't have another catcher. They have Kodai Senga as their backup catcher. They don't have another catcher on the 40-man. I don't know what they would do in that case. Kevin Pareda could potentially be an option. That feels very aggressive for the Mets to do. So maybe they would sign somebody to a minor league deal, add them to the 40-man and promote them. I haven't done a super big deep dive into what catchers are available out there on the open market for the Mets to sign a veteran backstop to join them this late in the season. But yeah, obviously you want Luis Torrens to be a little more careful to not get hurt, but I don't want him to not be the player that he is and be aggressive and try to get those outs throwing down to second base. That's who he is, and that's what we loved about him early in the season when he was playing a lot for the injured Francisco Alvarez. The Mets defense was top-notch behind the plate because he was gunning runners with that great arm, that great pop time. So I don't want to lose that skill because we're trying to play this game of we don't want him to get hurt, so we got to tell him to back off. You want him to be the player that he's been all season. And so there's a balance, I think, somewhere in there. It's just hard to tell a player this time of year with the opportunities that Luis Torrens is going to get every day to kind of tell him to ease off the gas pedal a little bit and not, take a ball or a bat off the glove hand tonight and get a catcher's interference call trying to throw somebody out at second base. Kodai Senga struggled tonight for the Mets. The offense, their rally came up short. They had a big sixth inning, and a sixth inning that makes you feel confident that they could put that together, but they couldn't finish the job, and the Mets are still looking to win a game this season after trailing after 8 innings. They don't have that 9th inning comeback in them just yet. They'll have to wait here once again to get that. They will go for the series win tomorrow in the rubber game between them and the Washington Nationals, and it will be Sean Manaea on the mound in that contest for the Mets. We are back here on the Mets Postcast tomorrow to break all of that down. As always, if you are new here, please subscribe and turn on that notification bell so that you are notified when we go live after the Mets game concludes. If you're listening to us after the fact in the podcast feed, we appreciate you. But if you want to join us live the moment the Mets conclude, the Locked On Mets YouTube channel is the place that you want to be. A final thought here. I don't know if I mentioned it enough. What a bad night behind the plate for Todd Tishner. Just a bad strike zone all across the board. I know I mentioned it earlier, but I do want that to be a closing note tonight. It was bad all around tonight. Can't wait to see that ump scorecard either later tonight or early tomorrow because it was a bad one. It was a rough one. Not the reason why the Mets lost, but we talk about everything that happens during the game here on the postcast, and that certainly was a storyline developing over the course of the game. Just a strike zone that was suspect at best. That is going to do it for us here on the Mets Postcast. Appreciate you joining us. We are back again tomorrow to break down the finale of this series, and Sean and I are hopefully putting together a quality start for the New York Mets. In the meantime, have a good one, Mets fans.